Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Rodan. And today, as you can see, I'm still continuing my Disney movie marathon where I talk about the movies, of course, shows, programs, documentary, whatever the case may be, I guess. So, for this video, of course, I just figured to talk about one of the oldest animated films, even though I've already talked about it. But I just thought, I guess, talk about like behind the scenes kind of a thing because making a movie, just the whole process of making a movie is, of course, is a pain, obviously. So I'm going to be talking about lost cinema films that were supposed to have been made, but for one reason or another weren't. This could be because lack of funding, creative differences, too many script changes, or maybe the script itself wasn't up to par. Or maybe a disagreement, maybe for whatever reason, I guess. And even if you get into the film industry, that's not guaranteed that you can get your film made. And even if you made the movie, it doesn't mean your film is going to get actually released. Kind of like what happened with Background movie, which was filmed but never released. So, and also it was supposed to be a part of the expanded universe for DC, among many others that were cancelled. And yeah, this seems to be like a common thing in Hollywood. Not that I'm trying to discourage anybody, don't get me wrong, it's just a very difficult thing to get into. The whole process of getting into it is difficult, and just because you got your foot through the door and got into the business, even that is not a guarantee. I'm just throwing it out there, it's gonna be tough. But this could be even in regards of Disney, of course. Disney is not saved from this, of course. We have different versions and whatnot, or different takes and whatnot with certain stories or whatever. And yes, even if they already made a movie, it could be completely different from what they originally had, which yes, happened before. Maybe the original idea of a certain movie was completely different than the finished product. Yeah, even though there's already been multiple different versions of Snow White over the years, and I do mean a lot. I'm not sure if a single one, of course, because when I say a lot, I mean a lot of different versions that were released over the years. Most of them are animated from what I can find, of course, and some are live action. So there's that. But of course, the more well known one is obviously the Disney version, the studio's take on the character. But I guess to be more exact, while yes, this movie was actually made, yes, but I guess like I was saying a moment ago, yeah, there was a major change to the movie, a major change from the original story. They had a plan at first. And then, yes, there's a whole thing with editing, which in itself is like another process. It was going to be a pain. And you can just imagine the difficulty Walt Disney had to do when it comes to editing because, he didn't have the fancy computers nowadays that we do back then, of course. So I'll be talking about Snow White, his version of the movie. So, yeah, this was a complicated process because the animation itself took so much effort when you think about it. And a lot of people didn't believe in the project. I mean, you have to keep in mind, was anybody asking for this movie? Absolutely not, but he still made it. And yeah, we have memorable characters like the Evil Queen. Yeah, she's pretty cool in her own way, obviously. And yeah, there's quite a bit of memorable characters in the film. Like also, of course, the dwarves themselves. Of course, yeah, they're a likable bunch in their own way. So obviously, and of course, the music wasn't too bad. Obviously, so there you go. And also, Snow White herself, she's like a what you call a purely good, purified type of character, which yes is a character trope. Doesn't have to be a bad one, of course, but she's pretty cool in her own way, obviously. And of course, let's not forget about the Prince, which, by the way, originally speaking, he was supposed to have way more scenes, and I do mean a lot more, but due to the complicated process of the animation, it was shortened, by the way. But of course, there was the character just trying to kill her right away.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
But the thing is that it actually would have been a lot more gloomier, of course. Yeah, because there's some elements of the film that was going to be a part of it, but wasn't. Like, yeah, like it wasn't already there. When you think about it, so it's actually kind of gloomy already when you think about it. Not that I'm complaining though. But yeah, I was surrounded with this character, yes, who attempted to assassinate Snow White. It was an assassination attempt, which of course, okay, a bit of a spoiler here, didn't do it. Uh, yeah, I was kind of remorse actually. So yeah, that's kind of the primary focus of this video of what I'm talking about. So yeah, this character, from what I heard, it was supposed to have a different story, and the change would have made a much darker story. And yes, I was saying earlier, folks, Snow White and Seven Dwarfs was actually the very first Disney princess ever made, and the first animated film to be animated. And of course, obviously, as you can see, they had many, I guess you can say, roots for the that became the standard for the princess movies for the years to come. And what made a Disney princess movie, can actually be traced back all the way to this movie. Yeah, all the elements are there. So the following princess movies kind of like borrow these elements and do their own tweaks to it, even the newer stuff. Yeah, like some of the dark elements weren't already there, at least to some extent anyway, which is fine because Walt Disney himself didn't mind showing death in his movies, which just, of course, is rather morbid when you think about it. But still, point being is that the assassin, yeah, this character, I guess in some ways he would have more of a story in the movie, I guess. Because when you think about it, okay, this was called a failed attempt to do so, to kill Snow White. And I guess we would have saw the consequences of his failed mission. And yeah, I actually would have liked to see this, of course. But the thing is that this would have, yeah, this would have been actually pretty cool if I actually saw this, of course. But this is of course, going to the according to the Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, the art and creation of Snow White of Disney's classic animated film, Snow White, of course, and the Hunchman. The Hunchman, if I'm pronouncing his name right, excuse me, it was nearly a completely different character, and with a much more, I guess, sadistic approach to killing Snow White, with the intention of giving him some name, of course. But yeah, he was pretty much really on the intent on killing off the character Snow White, of course, and have this kind of personality would have massively changed the film as a whole. And I guess it's one of those cases. The original version of this film, um, would have been much different, of course, obviously. So the original version would have been much different than. I guess it would have some beats. That's kind of the same thing. The same ideas, the same concept would have been there, of course. But still, obviously, things have changed. So the original version, the villain was changed, and yeah, it would have been I guess a completely different movie as a result of this. But yeah, there's that, and I guess in some ways it was a kind of like the fact that the villain, of course, where we saw in the actual movie, came off like a massively different villain because I guess you should say attempting, just a mere attempt of killing somebody is bad in itself. But I guess you can say, but the thing is that, again, the mere attempt of wanting to kill somebody is in itself bad, but it's like he had a change of heart, some remorse, I guess you can say, at least in the finished product, I guess you can say, in the finished film, of course. But yeah, it looks like the villain himself was softened, of course, and whatnot. So there's that. So yeah, he actually had a plan, of course, and his plan would have drastically changed the film as a whole, and and some people felt that it probably would have ruined the character himself. I don't know about that, but yeah, that's just definitely I think people discussed his decision to actually save Snow White solves the complexity of the character. So that's one way of doing it, of course. And yes, obviously the character was under strict orders to do a thing, but we never really saw the consequences of disobeying the queen. And of course, choosing to disobey the queen shows his bravery and strength, which adds to his complexity, which a lot of people have stated, of course, instead of just rather making him a one-dimensional villain, I guess you can say. Again, I'm not justifying the character's actions, like I said a moment ago. The mere attempt of assassinating, but even though he technically didn't do it, but just a mere attempt of doing it is in itself can be bad. So yeah, folks, you can say yeah, he's still a bad character. He's still a villain type character, but there's still some compassion in there somewhere and whatnot. So there's that. There's still some good in there somewhere, I guess you can say. But because of that one change, completely altered the entire movie. So there you go. So I guess that'll be it for now, folks. As always, thanks for watching and take care. The next time, see you.